Well, hey, I am so glad to be with you tonight. Hello. I am waiting for a few people to come into the room with me. It's going to be a great time tonight. Yes, I've been looking forward to this all day. And so I'm glad that you're here and I'm glad that you can be a part of this particular masterclass. I love teaching this masterclass because it is from my heart and it is very near and dear to me. And it's something that I feel that is so relevant, especially to my lady leaders. And so I hope that you will get ready, get your pen out, get your paper out. I'm making sure my hair's on straight. We're going to have a great time tonight. And if you're just joining me, drop in a chat where you're joining me from, state or city or country, whatever you're comfortable with sharing. I'm going live in several places today, and so just in case I don't see the chat immediately, I will see it later. I am super duper excited. We're going to have a great time today, and I hope that you are ready. If you are ready, drop the word ready into the chat so I'll know that you are indeed ready to go. I'm going to try to keep an eye out here for activity in the chat. You know, this whole doing two things at once is an interesting thing, but if you just bear with me, we'll be all right. All right. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. I think it's working. Hopefully it is. We shall see. If not, I don't know. I guess, yes. So I'm going on. So thank you for joining me tonight. I am super excited about what we have going on here tonight because we have what I like to call leading with fragments, 3 steps to overcoming burnout. Now, I want to say from the onset of this masterclass today that this is not, just a shoot from the hip kind of thing. This is something that I know is so relevant to leadership because we are leaders. We know we don't have the luxury of just falling apart. We don't have the luxury of saying, oh, well, not today, because we're leaders and we have people counting on us. But the truth of the matter, let me make myself bigger here. The truth of the matter, if I can do that, yeah, I'm back. The truth of the matter is that many times we don't take care of us. We take care of everyone else. We do what we have to do so that people can get what they need, but we don't take care of us. And so it's really important that we understand who we are and what is required for us to keep going. And that's why this is so important to me. And hopefully you'll find a blessing out of it too. And so we're going to be talking about leading with fragments, 3 steps to overcoming burnout. So I want to just make sure you're in the right place at the right time. And you know that you are if you can relate to one of these 5 areas. Either you are burnout from trying to balance the demands of your marriage, your career, or your calling, or you're frustrated from trying to live up to the unrealistic expectations put on you. That's a whole sermon by itself. Or you feel like you have no voice, no identity, or even a name of your own. How about you're exhausted because every victory you have accomplished has come at such a high price, and that price was your peace and well-being? Or maybe you feel miserable because you are seen only as what you can do and not who you are. And so this is these 5 areas we're going to touch on tonight, and hopefully you'll find yourself somewhere in the midst of this information that we're going to put out tonight. So by the end of this masterclass, You'll have three powerful principles to start your paradigm shift from being burnout to having a balanced life without compromising your marriage, your career, or your calling. I do have a transparency alert. Pardon the little typo there, it's formatting. But a transparency alert is that you will want to stay until the end to hear about the great bonuses that I have waiting for you. Also, at the end, I'm going to introduce you to an opportunity at the end of this masterclass that you won't want to miss. And the reason why this is important is because my clients have gotten such great results from working with me that I want your life to be positively impacted as well. So, are you ready to get started? Okay, let's go. So, oops, let's go back. There we go. Burnout isn't just about feeling tired, it's about the disconnect. That is a statement that I wrote recently in a post because so many times, especially as women, we have like this Wonder Woman syndrome where we just feel like we have to do it all and we can do it all. You know, I am woman, hear me roar. I get it. I'm a strong willed woman myself. I understand all of that. But underneath all of that, we're burning out and it's wearing us out. And so being burnout is not just about being tired, it's about the disconnect where you're no longer caring about the things that you used to care about or the things that you used to love. It's because you are so emotionally, physically, spiritually, and every other kind of way, you are so drained and exhausted. That's what burnout is. It's not something that you just overcome with a good night's sleep. Something has to change, and we're going to talk about it tonight. So let's jump right in with these 3 steps to overcoming burnout. First of all, we have to overcome the guilt. I don't know about you, but I experienced so much guilt going through my burnout. And unfortunately, I've been burnt out a couple of times in my life and career. And we'll get to the why a little bit later on. But you have to overcome the guilt when you realize I can't do it all. I just can't do it all. One thing I know to be true is that your body will only let you go but so far. And after that, it's going to shut you down if you don't. And so we have to overcome the guilt, this self-imposed guilt that we can't be the superhero that we think we are. And it's actually biblical. You're thinking, okay, what are you talking about? Well, in 1 Kings chapter 19, verses 4 through 8, we find a story about Elijah, the prophet, who, after dealing with the prophets of Baal and getting the victory on Mount Carmel, you'll have to read that story in chapter 18. Phenomenal story. God used him mightily. It was an amazing experience. But here's the thing. He got to a point when that was all said and done, when he had finished his assignment, he got to a point where God had to tell him, now go to the brook and rest a while because the journey is too great for you. You're going to have to rest. He allowed him to go to the brook. He slept there. The Lord sent ravens to feed him there twice a day because he said the journey was too great for him. In other words, it wasn't where he had been that was overwhelming. It was what he had coming up. It was what was to come that God knew would be so great and so overwhelming that it was going to require all of Elijah's strength and all of his tenacity and all of his faith. And so God told him, the journey is too great for you. He did not say it was too great. He said it is too great. Because of the magnitude of the assignment upon your life, if you don't learn how to address your burnout, you are not going to survive it. And so I want to make sure that I'm getting this across to you so that you'll understand what's happening. So he said, the journey is too great for you in 1 Kings chapter 19. Additionally, sometimes if you're like me, you have what I call approval addiction. Well, we might call it by another name, people pleasing, where we are so addicted to trying to please everybody when we already know it is absolutely positively impossible to please 100% of the people 100% of the time. We know this, but yet we're caught up in trying to get the approval of not everybody, but some key people in our lives. And it wasn't until God brought Numbers chapter 14, verse 2 to my mind many years ago that I began to really understand this. And in that particular scripture, the scripture says, if God delights in us, then he'll bring us into the land that flows with milk and honey. And so it's so important that we understand that verse, because what God made me to realize was that if I spent half of my time trying to please God as much as I was trying to please everybody else, imagine how much further along in life and my ministry and my leadership abilities, how much further along would I be if I was just trying to please Him? Doing this simplifies my life. When you get to that point where you're not addicted to pleasing people, your life becomes so much sweeter and so much simpler. And it's important that we understand that. So we've got to overcome the guilt. That's step number one. Step number two is we have to eat. Now, whether you are watching this on the replay or you're watching this live with me now, either on my YouTube channel or in LinkedIn or in my Facebook groups or page, if you miss the next section of this, you miss everything. This is the real meat of this masterclass, and I really want your attention. Take a moment, put the distractions away. I won't tell you to turn your phone off, but at least put it on silent, because this is the part you will not want to miss. And so he says here, well, I say, in this presentation, that step number two is to eat. And I'm not going to sit here and have a meal and have dinner with you right now, even though that would be fun. This is not that. But what God wanted me to share with you is that there is a deception of malnutrition. And let me explain what I mean. I was scrolling one night and I saw this particular graphic. As you can see, I did not create it. UNICEF, the World Health Organization, the World Bank Group, the Joint Child Malnutrition estimates, all of those groups and organizations, they came up with this particular graphic. But let me just share with you for a few moments the gravity of this graphic as it pertains to what we're talking about tonight. So these three phases of malnutrition come in stunting, wasting, and overweight. And so again, this is the part you don't want to miss. Now, in this graphic, is talking about children under the age of 5. This is real malnutrition, a real physical thing that is being represented in this graphic. I want to share with you some spiritual connotations about this specific graphic. Stunting in children under 5 means that they are too short for their ages. In other words, to be under the age of 5, they should be bigger than what they are. They're too small. They're not growing. That's a deception of malnutrition. They're not growing. And many times in leadership, we keep pouring out and we keep giving and we keep doing and serving because that's what leaders do. But we're not taking the time we need to get the nutrients that we need in order to grow. And therefore, our professional lives, our personal development, our spiritual growth is stunted. And so you may be in that phase of stunting. Then there is the wasting. That's where children under 5, they're too thin for their height. It's like their bodies are stretched out, kind of like a rubber band. And what God is trying to help us understand today is that many times we will allow ourselves to be stretched so thin because we're trying to do too much. We're trying to spread ourselves thin, so thin until we're ineffective and we're too thin for our height. In other words, yes, you may have that C-suite position in your corporation. Yes, you may be at the top of your game. Yes, you may be, in a district position if you're an educator, or you may be in some other high level position. You may be a pastor or a pastor's wife, and you may be someone who has a high level position. But if you don't know how to delegate, if you don't know how to do more by doing less, then you're going to be stretched thin. And because of that, you're misshapen, you're stretched out, and you're not able to do all the things that you need to do because being that thin weakens you. It makes your bones brittle where anything, just anything can come up and it'll break you because you're not as strong as you could be. Then you have the overweight, where children under 5 are overweight. You would think, well, they're okay. It must be all right, because they're heavy, they're fluffy, as they say, thick is in. Hmm. Totally unhealthy. In fact, according to this overweight, this obesity is a deception because even though you look like you have it all together, you look like you're prospering, being overweight, oh my, being overweight is has so many connotations. First, it means you're taking on so much that your body can't process it all. Your body can't handle all of the responsibilities that you're taking on. Number two, and this is what God just dropped in my spirit, being overweight in this respect, in this context, means that you are hiding. It is like comfort food for you. Being so busy and so burdened and so burnout is like comfort food for you because this is all that you know. Oh my goodness. Let me just share this personal testimony with you. A couple of years ago, several years ago actually, I was journaling and I was typing on my computer just random thoughts, however they came to mind, that's what I was typing up. And I was typing about change. And I remember typing that every change that has happened in my life, good or bad, has come at such great cost. It has cost me everything. And everything just keeps changing, and I can't stop these changes. And all of a sudden, I kept typing, and I didn't realize what I was typing until it was already out. And I said, when I typed, I said, the reason why I have struggled with my weight all of my life is because it is the one thing that I can control. Let that sit with you for a moment. Again, I typed in my journal and said that the reason why I've struggled all my life with being overweight is because that was the one thing I could control. How many of us are burnout today because it's like a safety blanket to us? It's like Linus and his security blanket. We don't feel like we are complete. We don't feel like we are enough if we're not doing a million and one things. And we feel that because we can multitask, then we should be okay. And for those of us who may be neurodivergent, we may be able to relate to this because we've got our hands in so many things. We're distracted so easily because we're burnt out and we can't focus on the one thing that God has called us to do. Or maybe it's 2 or 3 things, but I can tell you, according to scripture, it's not more than 5. You know the story about the talents. He gave 5 to one, 2 to another, and 1 to one. And so it's important that we find ourselves somewhere in one of these three phases of malnutrition and understand that there is a deception that's happening with us. The thing about fragments is that that word, first of all, is only used 7 times in the Bible, and all the references are about the same thing: Jesus feeding either the 5,000 or the 4,000. Now, I'm going to be honest with you that it's the story about the 2 fish and the 5 loaves of bread. And so my attention had always been on the fish, because I love seafood. But when I looked up the word fragments in the concordance, I found that it was from a Greek word that means a bit or piece, broken, or from a primary verb meaning to break, specifically referring to bread. And so the reason why I'm mentioning this is because, as you know the story, the young man had 2 fish, 5 loaves of bread. There were 5,000 men that were hungry and needed to be fed, not including the women and children. So you could double or triple that number. And all they had was 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. But Jesus took the meal, he broke it, and he gave it to his disciples, and they served. However long it took for them to serve 5,000 plus people, they kept serving, they kept serving, they kept doing. They didn't stop to eat. They didn't stop to take a break. They didn't stop to see about their needs. And nothing was said about their needs until it was all over, until they were done serving. And Jesus said to them, "Take up the fragments, that nothing be lost." And so now all they had for themselves was fragments, pieces of the miracle that they had just shared with other people, pieces and fragments of the blessing that they had just served and given out to thousands of people. And sometimes as leaders, we find ourselves still leading, but we're leading with fragments, pieces of what we've given and served. And we have to do something about that. The third step to overcoming burnout is purpose-driven rest. I'm talking more than just taking a nap or going to bed at night. I'm talking more than a mani-pedi. To me, those are just good hygiene habits. Um, but when I say purpose-driven rest, I mean, like Jesus said, come apart. In fact, he said to his disciples, "Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while." For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. They didn't even have time to eat. And Jesus said, "It's time for you to get some rest. And you're not going to be able to do it staying in the same place where you were. You're going to have to come apart." Now, let me just say, I'm not telling anybody to leave your church. I'm not telling anybody to quit your job. I'm not telling you to do anything other than to come apart and rest. It's okay to take a few days off. It's okay to rest. It is a commandment. This is what Jesus wanted them to do. And some of you may be watching, you're thinking, why is he talking about Jesus so much? It's because I coach from a faith and career combination basis. I'm a faith-based coach, and this is what I do. And it's important to me that I share that the strategies that I present are not just backed by theory or science, but it's also backed by scripture. And God has the final say. And so I want to make sure that we understand those 3 phases, those 3 steps to overcoming burnout, and those 3 phases of malnutrition. So I wonder, when you look at these 3, stunting, wasting, and overweight, where do you fall in those 3? You can drop that in the chat if you're listening or watching. Where do you fall? Stunting, wasting, or overweight? One thing I want to say about the three stages of malnutrition, whether physically or emotionally, is that both produce the same outcomes: fatigue, failure to thrive, wounds that take a long time to heal, and you're feeling cold most of the time. Now, time won't permit me to really jump into wounds that take a long time to heal, because a lot of times when you are exhausted, people can say something to you so simple, and you will hear something so different and take offense to it and be so wounded. And you'll carry that wound for so long, not because of what they actually said, but because you were so burnt out and so exhausted until your guards were lowered, your sensitivity was diminished, and your wounds will take a long time to heal, and then you become cold most of the time. Do you not know the scripture says, because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold? That waxing cold tells me that it's a process. It happens over time. That you're not just cold immediately. It's just a constant chipping away until you're cold, you're indifferent, and you don't care. Um, and so let me keep moving. So, what does all this mean to you? I'll tell you what it means. It means that it's time to get different results. It's time to do something different, because you know the saying, if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always gotten. And so we have to do something different. That's where my burnout to balance boot camp comes into play. And because I told you in the beginning, I was going to let you know about an opportunity. And this burnout to balance boot camp is a 90-day program, a group program for C-suite women in business and leadership. And so wherever you fall into that, whether you are in the corporate world or government, or you are a pastor or pastor's wife, this is for you. This is the burnout to balance boot camp. And you might say, well, if I need rest, why are you calling it a boot camp? Because that certainly doesn't sound restful. That's because it's going to take work, and you're going to have to be committed to the work to get you from that burnout status where you are to the balanced status that you want to have. And that's why we're going there. And so I empower C-suite and neurodivergent women in business and leadership who struggle with balance due to burnout. So let's talk about the problems that I know that you're facing. For example, you feel that you've lost yourself while trying to be all things to all people. Been there, done that. Can I get a witness? But the solution is to develop a better understanding of your values and what makes you unique. That is some of the foundational work that has to be done. The problem is that you're overwhelmed to the point of burnout in most areas of your life. But the solution is that you prioritize among 8 areas of your life to determine your perceived level of balance and identify your greatest level of need. And this is important because as much as we feel like we can do everything, we're not going to address every single thing. And that is why having you assess which areas of your life need the most support is so important to you. The problem is you don't know what a balanced life would look like for yourself. Have you ever been so burnt out for so long till you are just so far from the shore you can't see land? Yeah. Well, in our program, you're going to create a value-driven vision for how you want your life to look 3 months from now. Just 3 months, 90 days. By the way, what do you want your life to look like 3 months from now? What vision do you have? And before you answer that question, no excuses. I didn't ask for how are you going to accomplish that? What's the process? All I want you to start thinking about is, what do you want it to look like? And the most important word in that question is want. What do you want? Not what do you need, not what do you hope for? What do you want in order to have that balanced life? And we're going to talk about that in the program. One of the things that we have to do is get to the root causes of your burnout. You are so burnt out and can no longer identify the barriers preventing your balance. And we've got to do the work and find out what's causing the burnout. It's never something on the surface. And so that's why we take a deep dive into identifying the balance blockers and to develop a strategy for detoxing. Yes, detoxing. No, you're not going to have to drink anything. But we will detox some areas of your life so that you can experience the balanced life that I'm talking about. Finally, the problem is that you have a perceived sense of failure when you cannot meet every obligation. Like that approval addiction I talked about. You're going to learn the power of no. If you're watching, I need you to drop no into the chat. Yes, please drop no into the chat because we are going to learn the power of no. And we're going to create a schedule that time blocks your balanced priorities. This is so important as we work together. And so I love this picture here, and it's something that I really want you to think about, because this will explain why embracing this program is so important to you. And so I know you're thinking, what does a staircase matter? Well, a couple of months ago, I was having an arthritis flare up, lots of pain, hard to move. But I was determined, to keep moving because that's what we do. We just do what we have to do. And through the pain and everything. And I was walking back to my car, and all of a sudden, it was like something hit my body, and the pain immediately left my body. I mean, I stopped walking. I looked down. I'm like, what just happened? I had no idea. And I felt so much better. Did not have a single pain in my body. That was wonderful, rejoicing. Woohoo! That was great. About 2 or 3 days later, I was upstairs in my office and I needed to come downstairs for something. And I came down the steps, kind of like a toddler would, one step, 2 step, 2 steps. You know how toddlers do it. And I got to about the 3rd step down, and literally God spoke to my heart and said, "What are you doing?" And I just stopped and I looked around, and then I remembered, oh yeah, I don't have any arthritis pain. Why am I walking down the steps like this? And here's the major epiphany that came to me. The reason why I was going down the steps like a toddler is because I had become so accustomed to the pain and the limited mobility until I was used to coming down the steps like that. I did what was familiar, not what was my reality, because I had no pain. I did what I was comfortable and familiar with just because I was used to doing it. When I realized that, I literally straightened up and walked down the steps like normal, like a normal adult. And that just blew my mind, because so many times the reason why we're stuck is because we're so used to the pain, used to the limitations, used to the agony, used to the inability to do things that we need to do, until even when we're free, we're not free. And so my program, Burnout to Balance Bootcamp, is that important to you, because it's going to break some traditions in your life. It's going to break some what you're used to. Couldn't say that word at the moment, but it's going to break those things in your life that you are doing through the pain. What good is it to come down the steps like a toddler when there is no pain? There's no reason to. The work had been done. And so the Burnout to Balance Boot Camp will break those chains off of your life. And so that's why embracing this program is so important to you. So, but you do have three choices. This is America. You have three choices. You can do nothing and just keep going down the steps of life like the toddler, or you can do it yourself and try to figure it out on your own, or you can do it with me. Because I have found having the right supportive system in place is crucial to your healing, to your breakthrough, and to your transformation. So again, the Burnout to Balance Bootcamp, it's for you. It really is. And so again, I empower C-suite and neurodivergent women in business and leadership who struggle with balance due to burnout. So I want to share with you some of the things that my clients have said. Well, and I'll just summarize it. Charlotte said that I asked her poignant questions to help focus on the things in her life that she could control so that she could take her power back. That was a powerful time that I had with Charlotte, and I was so glad for the transformation that she received. Juliana said that from the inside looking out, she couldn't really see, but having me help her out helped her to broaden her horizon so that she could see what the possibilities were where her career was concerned. Amaya said that I'm truly one of a kind. That's just Amaya. And she said that she would definitely recommend working with me. Chelsea said this. She said, I have thoroughly enjoyed working with Rhonda and know I am changed from our sessions. That's what we're after, transformation. Because what good is it to have a coach and have a support system if there's no transformation? The Burnout to Balance Bootcamp is where you'll find the transformation that you need that's lasting. It's not a quick fix. It's not a Band-Aid. It is a lasting transformation. Tarsha said this. She said, and I'll just share some of it with you. Hopefully you can see it on her screen. This was a text message that she sent. She said, I know it was a godsend for us to connect. I am thankful for your gift, your calling, and purpose on this side of heaven. It has changed my life and gave me some God-given tools to navigate life. Powerful, powerful working with these women. And so I want to work with you too in our Burnout to Balance Bootcamp. But I promised you some bonuses, and I'm going to drop it in the chat right after, since I can't do two things at once, apparently. I'm going to drop it in the chat so that even if you're watching this on the replay, you're going to get access to the bonuses. And the first bonus that you're going to get is a reflective journal from this session. There'll be some great things in there for you to reflect upon in your quiet time. It's a free download. It won't cost you anything, but it is so valuable to your success and transformation. Additional bonuses that are available, and you really want to hear this. I have 3 different bonuses that are available to you. One is a complimentary 3-month membership in my Empower Her Leadership Network. Exciting time. Those in my network have access to many courses. They have access to weekly Q&A sessions with me. They have access to discussion prompts and interaction with each other. And so the Empower Her Leadership Network is one of the bonuses available to you, valued at $237. Another bonus is a complimentary one-on-one 30-minute strategy session with me that's valued at $495. This is where you and I can sit down and really dig in for 30 minutes to some concerns that you may have that you want to address, and we can come up with a plan that will best help you navigate your transformation. Finally, The big bonus is complimentary access to my latest toolkit. And I am so super excited about this toolkit. It's called Wake Up, It's Your Purpose Calling. Yes, I'm so excited about it because you get a course, you get an ebook, you get the Wake Up workbook, and you get a journal. And so all of that you have access to, valued at $1,995. So you're getting access to over $2,700 worth of bonuses. And so you might be asking yourself, well, how do I get the bonuses? I'm going to tell you. So book a call. Yes, that is how you get the bonuses. I'll drop the Calendly link in the chat so that you can book a call with me and we can see what best fits you and how I can help you on your journey to transformation. And so, again, I'm looking forward to working with you in a Burnout to Balance boot camp. And I am so super excited. If you have questions, drop them in the chat. I will be working here and monitoring the chats after this session ends because I want to make sure I don't miss anybody. I have enjoyed working with you today, and I want to thank you for your time. It has been a great evening, and I hope that you got something out of this masterclass. You don't have to stay burnt out. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay, as one songwriter said, in the shape that you're in. It's time. It's time to do something about the burnout because, I've known leaders who have said, well, we'll rest when we get to heaven. Well, if you don't address your burnout, you're going to get there a whole lot sooner, or your quality of life will be greatly diminished because you would not address the burnout and the red flags that God has been trying to show you all along. It's time. It is time. And so I am Dr. Rhonda Simmons. I'm an executive balance and neurosystem strategist, and I want to partner with you in the Burnout to Balance boot camp. There are limited openings, and I like keeping the group small so that we can have more intimate conversations together. We can interact one with the other and really draw strength from one another. And so there are limited openings for the rest of the year. Make sure that you get in because there's only going to be a certain window of time. And by the end of next week, that window will be closed for accepting new registrants and enrollees into the program. And so you want to start. People make these New Year's resolutions, and I'm not about that life because you and I both know that the majority of people don't keep them. I won't say all, but the majority, many don't keep them. But here's the thing. If whatever you deemed important enough to be a New Year's resolution, if it was that important, why are you waiting to address it? If you wanted to lose weight, why are you going to wait 2 months to start? Why are you going to put yourself in a vulnerable position where, hey, I might gain more weight over the holidays? So why are you going to do that when help is available right now? So look in the show notes in the chat. I'm going to drop the links that you need to be successful. You'll have the link to the journal, the reflection journal, and you'll have the link to book a call with me so that you can access those complimentary bonuses. Again, I'm Dr. Rhonda Simmons. I am your executive balance and neurosystem strategist, and I can't wait to see you at the boot camp. Take care. See you next time.